SPC Global reaffirmed its FY26 guidance when it reported just a short time ago. That's as it continues to improve earnings and synergy-related savings. Despite a softer first half, SPC is eyeing a turnaround alongside a manufacturing revamp. To break it down, I'm joined by CEO Robert Aravasi. Robert, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Getting right into it, you were confident enough to reaffirm your FY26 guidance at the most recent half-yearly report. Why or how?
Yeah, look, it's been a fantastic 6 months for us with our half one results. We're about 12 months since we relisted on the Australian Stock Exchange and brought 4 business divisions together, and we've quickly moved from planning and transformation now into execution. And that execution has really given us confidence to be able to reaffirm our guidance, what we're setting out to achieve, and we're starting to see the fruits of our labour come to fruition in the marketplace.
When it comes to the domestic business, where are you really firing on all cylinders?
There's a couple of things for our domestic business, and certainly our domestic business remains at the heart of everything we do. We've often said that we've under-indexed in the on-the-go channel, and for us that means everything other than retail. So over the last 6 months, we've been able to grow our on-the-go channel by greater than 5% for the same period last year. That's places such as petrol and convenience, food services, caterers, restaurants, all the sorts of accounts and customers which could really use our products. And we've had some fantastic relationships that we've been building over that period of time with the new beverages portfolio, new pack formats such as bag-in-box for our catering accounts, and other offerings that we've brought to life in the marketplace. And it's great to see that becoming reality.
And from what I understand, you've simplified the product range. You're actually, trying to improve the mix, I suppose, of your products out there in the domestic business. Is there still work to do on that front?
So we remind ourselves constantly that we're actually a branded business, and the consumer is the person who makes the decision about what they will buy and won't buy. So we've pivoted. SPC of old used to be very much a manufacturing, supply chain driven business. We've turned it on its head, and we're focusing on what are those products that our consumers would like to have from us today, and also reflecting on the future. So we moved away from a lot of the more high volume, private label, co-packing type arrangements, and really focusing on new branded offerings. And what you'll see from us in the next 6 months are new products that we're launching, such as baked beans with additional protein, SPC Provider, which is fruit purees with added protein, collagen, etc. All those sorts of functional benefits that we have learnt to love in our food consumption on a daily basis.
Yep, well, you must be watching my Instagram feed because it is all about protein, Robert, these days.
Protein and functional benefits.
Oh my
exactly.
goodness. So what about the international business? What is your strategy there?
So international business is very much based on a functional powdered dairy offering, and for an Australian consumer it might not be part of our regular diet, but for our consumers throughout Asia, consuming a functional powdered milk, whether that's as an infant, a toddler, a teenager, a senior consumer, an adult, we have an offering that's available to a number of our customers all the way through their lifestyle and their life cycle journey. For us, we're starting to launch into new accounts. We have ready-to-drink offerings that we're bringing to the market, such as a Go Kids oat milk offering. We're starting to launch our beverages range throughout Korea, Japan, Singapore, and not to mention we have SPC tomatoes in a can, of course, on shelf in China. So we're using the infrastructure that we have in our Nature One international business to really cross-sell those offerings that are resonating with consumers throughout Asia. And in Asia, an Australian-made product is still considered to be a premium offering, which is fantastic.
So you've brought together SPC, the original beverage company, Nature One and Natural Ingredients.
Correct.
Obviously, I mentioned off the top there's been synergies within that, but how do you continue to sort of drive those companies forward? Do you look to add any additional brands to the stable, or do you have enough on your plate, excuse the pun, just serving these brands into both domestic and international markets?
Look, we've got some untapped markets that we can reach. So we under-index in some channels here in the domestic market. So we've got the opportunity to take our current range and actually expand it further. With our international business, we currently operate in about 13 international markets, and we continue to explore markets where it makes sense for us to grow. We've recently tested the waters in the Middle East to see what sort of product ranges can work there, and also extending our portfolio into markets that we haven't tested yet. And some of the early insights are that our beverages portfolio, especially when we move our juice offering through the closure of Mill Park and with extended shelf life, is starting to get a lot of traction throughout Asia. Our Juice Lab shots continue to be the #1 juice health drink in the Australian market and is growing double digits. And that's something that's attracted a lot of attention overseas. And we continue to explore how we'll launch that globally.
You can't get away from the fact, though, that you did post a net loss in the first half. So what are you doing in terms of balance sheet, in terms of capital management strategies to help firm up the financial position?
Absolutely. Historically, this business has been a business focused on procuring fruits, manufacturing, heavy working capital dependency, and therefore relying on debt and interest and borrowings to fund the operations of the business. We're now a much more diversified offering. In fact, 50% of our profit comes from international markets. So we're no longer reliant on the summer trade here in Australia, depending on crop size. We had announced to the market that one of our working capital initiatives was to reduce the level of inventory that we hold. In fact, we issued a target of holding about $110 million of inventory at 31st of December, and we achieved 109 as at the 31st of December. That's about $25 million lower than the year before. That's freeing up cash to support working capital, reduce our debt balances to levels that are more acceptable. And we'll continue with that trend and with those strategies over the course of the next 18 months.
When you are thinking about supply chains, when you are thinking about optimization, cutting costs, how are you factoring AI into that, Robert? I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this before.
Absolutely. And AI cuts through a number of opportunities that we get to explore across our business. As we transition some of our lines to Shepparton later on this year, in around about July or August, we'll be moving our Juice Lab shot lines from Mill Park into the Shepparton site. And with that, we're adding a lot of automation to the line as well. So while we're creating new roles, we're doing it in a more efficient and effective way to modernize our manufacturing footprint, which helps us compete not only here in Australia but on a global scale as well. So AI for us is identifying those routine, repeatable, volume-based transactions and identifying how we can do that in a more efficient way. And that's very much a live project that we have happening at the moment, and we expect that to continue to evolve over the next 12 to 18 months.
So full year 26, full year guidance, on track to deliver 25% EBITDA growth over FY25. So Robert, you know, as you continue to push through now this second half, when you look across the economic landscape in Australia, I mean, there's so much for this business to encompass. Also, you know, still the drive to buy Australian here at home. I mean, are you optimistic that all of the chips are falling into place? What really keeps you motivated?
So I'm a big believer in I've been in fast-moving consumer goods for most of my career, and I'm a big believer in supporting not only manufacturing here in Australia but also in regional locations where communities are heavily reliant on corporates such as ourselves by doing the right thing to keep employment happening and to grow. And that's a fantastic motivator. It's actually a privilege to be able to bring food and beverages to households each and every day, whether here or internationally, and that's a privilege we don't take lightly. So that's something that excites us to get out of bed. Our mission is to reimagine wellness and nourishment for consumers globally, and that's very much what we are designing ourselves and setting ourselves up to be able to do.